This is Terms of Reference. I'm your host, Stephen Laddick. Janna Greve is a human rights specialist working as a regional office coordinator for MAPP-OEA in Colombia. Prior to this position, she worked with Doctors Without Borders in North Kivu of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Janna has also worked in development cooperation, advisory, research, writing, and editing roles in Brazil, India, and Germany with NGOs and other international organizations. Janna studied political science, international relations, cultural anthropology, jurisprudence, and international human rights law in Germany and Portugal. I spoke with Janna in Medellin, Colombia. Hello, Janna. Thank you so much for being on the Terms of Reference podcast today.
Hello, Stephen. It's a pleasure to be with you today and having this conversation.
Where do I find you today? Where are you at in the world?
I'm currently at home in Medellin in Colombia.
Oh, okay. Tell us about what it is that you do right now. What's your job and sort of describe what it is that you're doing for MAPP-OEA today.
Okay, so I'm in Colombia since about 1.5 years, and I'm working as a coordinator of one of the regional offices of MAPP-OEA. MAPP-OEA is the mission to accompany the peace process by the Organization of American States, and the Medellin office is one of 10 regional offices in the country, with the headquarters in Bogota. And so I'm working here, as I said, as a coordinator. I have 2 colleagues, a secretary and 2 drivers, and an indispensable intern. And so we do the monitoring of different laws, of the implementation of different laws in relation to the peace process. My main focus is on transitional justice, so that means I go to judicial processes, I go to prison to talk with the mid and higher ranks of former paramilitary or guerrilla, and I also do field missions, sometimes on my own, sometimes with colleagues, to do the monitoring in the framework of our mandate. That is, we monitor processes in regard to reintegration of demobilized paramilitaries and guerrilla. We do the monitoring of the implementation of the laws to victims' compensation and land restitution. And we also monitor conditions of security, human rights, and international humanitarian law.
That is one heck of a portfolio. And when you say you're a project coordinator, are you working across all of those spaces, or do you focus only on one of the pieces that you just described?
I'm focusing, usually when I'm in Medellin, I'm focusing on the processes in regard to transitional justice, which makes it also a bit easier to work with my 2 colleagues, because as you said, it's a whole lot of things to work on, and we try to distribute the work as best as we can when we are in Medellin. But when we are on mission, that means in communities, in different areas of Antioquia, that is the department where Medellin is situated. We have to do the monitoring of all of these lines of the mandate. But I have great colleagues, and I'm very happy to work with them, and we kind of complement each other's work. But yes, I said in Medellin, I usually work with the topic of transitional justice. And it's a lot about interinstitutional articulation. Our work is not to, it's monitoring, as I said, and we are not here to substitute state institutions, but with the results of the monitoring and with the means we have, we try to help state institutions to implement the laws, let's say, in a better way, or to improve on flaws that exist. And we are a lot in contact also with victims, that is with grassroots organizations of the civil society. So yeah, it's a big spectrum of the peace process and actors, but it's very interesting.
Take me through the practicality of what monitoring means. You were describing it a little bit, but how does the framework of the peace process work overall? And then when you're monitoring laws, are you monitoring them at a very granular level? For instance, are you going to the courts and looking at the different decisions that are taken down? Are you going to local communities and seeing how the police operate? What does monitoring mean?
Exactly. It's actually all of that. So to have a really a good result of the monitoring, we have to talk with all the actors involved. So that means, yes, we go to court. We as much as possible, we accompany the court processes. We also go to prison to talk to demobilized, as I said, to demobilized paramilitaries to see what is their status, what is their objective once they might come out of prison. Do they understand the law that was created for them? We talk to the victims' organization to see how far has their reparation proceeded or not. And we also talk to the state institutions that are related to these processes. So there is a special agency, a state agency for land restitution, a special agency for victims' reparation, and also a state institution that works on the memory. That means they work on the history of the conflict, and also the different opinions and memories of the different actors. So yeah, it's a bit all of that, and it's a huge spectrum. But if you don't talk to all the actors and listen also to different opinions, you can't do a proper monitoring. So that's our aim, actually, to capture all those viewpoints and then see how far the implementation of the laws has proceeded.
Tell me more about the capturing of memory. This is a part of transitional justice as a whole, but how important is that in achieving reconciliation and sustainable peace, in your opinion? How has it worked out for you so far?
Well, it's a very, very interesting part of the whole process, and a very important part, because if you don't work on the memory of the people and with the people, the reconciliation of the society can't work in the long run. So it's very important to consider the memory of the different actors, as I said, and to give them voice, because for a certain amount of time, Colombians did not really talk about what was going on, what was happening, and now there is the state institution. There are many grassroots initiatives going on to work on memory, creative processes that includes arts and dancing, but also institutionalized processes with the demobilized, for example, so that they are given an opportunity and are also obliged to talk about their memory as a contribution to truth. And
how does that then provide it as feedback to the community as a whole? Is it captured somewhere in a large document, on a website, or is it remain confidential?
It's in regard to the demobilized, it's confidential, because they are obliged to contribute to truth, but they are also for the ones that are not in prison, it's confidential because of their own situation. But in regard to the victims and also grassroots institutions, NGOs that have suffered from intimidation and discrimination during by the paramilitaries, for example. All those voices are collected in publications by the Centro de Memoria Histórica, that is a center for historical memory. And there is one publication I can really recommend for everybody who's interested in those questions. It's called Basta Ya. That means it's enough. And it's a very good compilation, and they are constantly working on the issue of memory.
This is a complex issue and a complex process, and your organization, and particularly your job, is tasked with monitoring these laws. What happens when you're monitoring them and they aren't working out the way that they're supposed to? What is your role in either raising a flag or being a watchdog in that regard?
I like very much the expression of raising a flag. So that's a big part of the work we are doing. On the one hand, the regional offices of the MAPP-OEA, they write monthly reports, which are then sent to the headquarters in Bogota, and from there they are, let's say in a kind of diplomatic way, transmitted to the national institutions on national level. But also what we do, for example, in Medellin is that we create spaces for interinstitutional articulation. That is, for example, in regard to transitional justice, since a couple of months we are having a monthly institutional meetings on the topic of transitional justice and the peace process. That has become a very important space because yes, there are still some challenges for the institutions and some issues that have not been tackled enough with, and so this has become a very important space.
Are you able to give me an example of one of those issues? Are you able to talk about it?
Yes, one of these issues is that in transitional law there was a demobilization of paramilitaries in 2004, and the law that was created for the demobilization, which is called Ley Justicia y Paz, that is Ley for Justice and Peace, and the mid-level ranks of the paramilitaries that entered prison at that time, they are now about to leave prison. So it's a challenge. What will happen with them? How will they integrate into society? It's a question of reconciliation, of reintegration, of security. So all these topics are dealt with in these meetings. But we also work, for example, with the victims. There are round tables of victims in each community, and we have started a process this year of working with the women representatives of those round tables and giving them together with the state institution capacity building on gender, on their rights, and on how to influence public policies.
I want to turn for a second to how you ended up in Colombia. You worked for MSF before this. You've worked for a couple other organizations as well. Was it always your intention to become a development professional or an aid professional?
Yes, I can say so. I mean, I started after studies. I ended my studies in 2007, and then I first entered academia, and I lectured for half a year in university. But I pretty much realized very, very quickly that this is not where I wanted to work forever.
You wanted to have your hands dirty in the field, basically?
Kind of, yes. I wanted to work closer to the people, and at least I still like analysis. I still like theoretic concepts of peace, of development, of international justice, and I like writing articles. But I like to be close to the people I either write on or work on. So yes, this has become a line in my curriculum. So even if you say that, and it's true, I've worked in very different areas and in very different countries and different cultures, but I've always had the focus on human rights and social issues. And so, yeah, this has become the center of my professional course so far. And yeah, Colombia, I always wanted to come to this country, and it was a mixture of coincidence, of searching for new opportunities, and simply of my interest that brought me here.
Can you identify a moment in your past, either when you were much younger or in your university studies, when you sort of had that aha moment where you said human rights is where it's at for me? Like, do you remember what that was?
Oh, it's a good question, a tricky question, because I don't know if there was exactly one single point. I think I was always interested in justice. Maybe that's a matter of influence by, I don't know, education at home, of good teachers at school, and a general, maybe a bit of a characteristic of mine. But yeah, I think I've always read a lot, and I've always followed what's going on in the world, and I've had it, especially I've lived abroad already when I was 16 for half a year in Alabama, which is not so exotic, but actually that was a bit of an eye opener to be foreign, to be different. I spent lots of time with the basketball team. I was at that time in the basketball team, and most of them were Afro-Americans, and they took me with them to church where I was the only white person, and I talked to very different types of of people at that time, and also later on when I studied in Portugal. I think it's about many things I read about people I met, and maybe a bit of people who have set an example. So I think I had good influences in that regard and inspiration. Yeah,
it's always easy to talk about our successes, and clearly you've been successful in a number of ways. You've been able to navigate the other organizations and into the position you have now. Can you remember a time, either in the recent past or in the far past, when you sort of failed dramatically or fell flat on your face, and what you did to overcome that, or how you learned from it?
Yeah, I really like your question, because it might sound that I've been very successful, but yes, I've had those moments of, maybe not of failure, but of being challenged and also questioning the course I've chosen. I can say that it was I've had a very difficult phase when I decided to work in the humanitarian area, and I've just quit a job in a very nice editorial office, very interesting, but I really had that wish to work in the humanitarian field, and I did lots of courses with great institutions like the International Committee of the Red Cross, like Red R from the UK on needs assessment, lots of courses, and I met great people. But I had difficulties to find a job. And I wrote at that time for over a month, I don't know how many application letters. And so that was a big challenge for myself. But I'm also happy to have gone through that, because it showed me that I should stick to what I really want to work in. And it also makes you stronger in a way, and it makes you understand that the challenges of life in general. So and I always say, like, if you when we have interns, for example, here in the office, I think it's important not only to follow the practical ways or what society might expect from you, but also to really follow what you want to work in, because I think only then you can do a good job and you can stay healthy, because, in a way, I think it's important that you like your job.
For sure. What can you remember, especially when you were going through that difficult time of seeking that first job? Do you remember what the deciding factor was when you finally got hired? Was it a special skill you had? Was it just a great interview? Were you in the right place at the right time?
It was. I guess it was a bit of all of that together, and I think at that time it was with Doctors Without Borders. I mean, I've had a great interview also with the International Committee of the Red Cross, and a week later with Doctors Without Borders. Both were great interviews with really good questions, a bit like yours, and both. It was really appreciated that I had this will and maybe also the strength to stick to what I really wanted to, and also to go through difficulties and to be flexible. And that was a very good thing. And then when the job offer came for the Democratic Republic of the Congo, it was not only because it was any job offer, but it was also because I wanted to work in that field, and I was also already before very interested in what was going on in the Congo, and I wanted to contribute to the important work of Doctors Without Borders. So yes, that brought me there.
I'm right now just sort of going over where you've worked. You've been in Brazil, you've been in Kazakhstan, you've been in Congo, you're in Colombia now. Is there anything that you either take with you in particular or keep with you, or you require in order to keep you connected to home in some way?
Yes, friends.
Ah,
I mean, friends. Friends keep me connected to home because I have to say that, I mean, nowadays maybe it's easier with Facebook, but also like before I've constantly stayed in touch with with the people that really matter to me. That is my family and my best friends back home. And I'm really grateful that they have not forgotten about me in all those years I have not constantly lived in Germany. And it's still whenever I go home they are there, and whenever I don't feel good they are there. So that's very important. And sure, there are certain things like, I don't know, photos and material things you carry with you, but they have to be small, as you know. You're
sure.
kind of a nomad. You can't take a lot with you, but it's music, books and friends. And sometimes I really enjoy like reading a German book, just for relaxing my head and feeling a bit disconnected from this contact and a bit more connected to my home.
What about the converse? Do you find that you have trouble describing the work that you do to some of your friends? Do you get that? I'm not sure exactly what you do.
Yeah, that happens constantly to me, and it really differs on the person, whether they want to understand you and whether they are really interested in it and whether they have maybe experienced something similar. So yeah, I've learned that I cannot, and I don't sometimes even not bother anymore so much with some people to explain exactly what I'm doing. But I also understand that not everybody can understand what I'm doing. And with other friends, it's great because they are really interested and also know a bit maybe about the Colombian context or want to hear about it and ask how I'm doing. But yes, it has happened to me that also questions that came from friends were, for example, when I was in the Congo and in a conflict zone, and people ask me like, "Do you enjoy traveling?" And so yeah, that happens too. But they have all my understanding that they not everybody can understand the context I'm in.
Of course. Now that you're in Colombia and you're working for a fairly significant organization American States, etc. Do you still have the usual fears about job security? Do you have a long-term contract? Is that something that you have to worry about? Sort of creating funding for your job?
Yes, a little bit, because I'm seconded by the German Foreign Ministry, so I have a secondment contract. My work contract is with the OAS, but I'm seconded and paid by the German Foreign Ministry. The conditions are really good, I have to admit, and then compared to other jobs I've done, I'm very happy. But yes, the contract is limited to 2 years. So yes, as from next year, I have to look for another job again. And that is certainly on my mind. It does not worry me yet so much. And I'm still very secure that I will find another interesting maybe challenging job too. And but yes, I'm also thinking about maybe giving myself the opportunities to create a bit of a base, to create some roots. I'm not sure if it will be back in Europe already, but that's certainly on my mind too, since I'm over 30 now, and and yeah, some things make you wonder where you want to live in the long run.
Sure, absolutely. What do you think, given the fact that you're looking towards another transition here, what do you think the next, say, 5 years holds for you in your career? Is there a particular thrust of human rights advocacy or that you want to pursue, or is there another change you want to make?
No, that's definitely a topic I want to follow and I want to keep working on. I think that, the three main topics are development, social justice or international justice, and peace. So yes, I hope I can continue to work on those topics. For sure, I will do so by writing, but that doesn't allow me for a living wage. And maybe I might end up in consultancy or in a development agency, what if I've also tried to to establish a bit as a network in regard to people who might be good contacts once I want to work, maybe also for short-term deployments, abroad. Because as I said, I'm interested in one day having a bit of a base, but I will never lose that interest in what's going on in other countries. And as you said, in my interest in human rights and development.
As you've gone through your career and worked for a wide diversity of organizations in, again, another wide diversity of geographical locations, have there been particular tools or systems or technologies or practices that you've carried with you and you find yourself using today at MAPP-OEA?
I think especially, for myself, but also for those institutions or organizations, it's very important, the issue of a good organization, good coordination, knowledge management, and good systems of information. So I've carried that with me a bit for myself, because if I don't keep organized, that becomes very tricky. And it's about constant learning for myself and for the institution. So it's very very important that you systemize what you've done so far and what the institution has done so far, and also maybe those nice words of lessons learned.
Sure.
Also play a big role in personal and professional development.
Is there a particular lesson learned? And I'm thinking, is there a way that you manage a budget that that you find particularly effective, or is there a way that you write reports that you find particularly effective?
In regard to budget, I've always managed pretty well, but as I said, my wages were very, very different. So I always managed to live on a low level, but still have.
I meant more of on the lines of, have you ever managed the budget for your program?
Oh, sorry.
We're all modest here in the development world. I get that, but yeah. So when you're thinking about, so I'm thinking, you have this, Colombia-facing peace process that is fairly complex. Do you, and you're coordinating? Is part of your coordination overseeing the budget and how it works, or no?
Only part of it, because usually that's managed by the headquarters in Bogota, but also the OAS headquarters in Washington. But yes, sometimes we get assigned projects by with the help of donor organizations. So that yes, at that point we have to manage budgets and to see how we can for what we can use the budget we have. In that cases, it's very important to have a good communication with your colleagues and to have a good work plan. So and a good chronogram. I don't know if that's the right chronogramma, if that's the right word in English, for the rest of the year, to see what you can do and what you can't do. And what happens a lot to our mission is that people come and, could you help us with funding this and that? And unfortunately, we usually don't have projects, and we are not a development agency. But it's surprising how much you can do without money.
Give me an example of that, about how something that you've done that didn't really need money, but you felt had an impact or created space for people.
Mm-hmm. So, for example, in regard to capacity building, or if you want to do that in a creative way, giving people the opportunity to listen to experiences from other people, to draw what they have experienced, that doesn't cost you much, maybe a lunch, but it's a very, very important process, with an important impact to people. And the other example maybe are those interinstitutional meetings I mentioned beforehand, that bring together the people and allow for cooperation, for building up alliances, and also for a bit more transparency about what's going on. So yeah, that doesn't really cost you a lot, but it's very, very important.
If we were actually physically together sharing a cup of coffee, what is the one story or your favorite story that pops into your mind that you usually tell your friends back at home, or when you meet somebody for the first time about your experiences as a development professional?
Oh wow, I think I couldn't reduce myself to one story.
Well, what's the one that pops into your mind right now about there's that one time I was in North Kivu and
yeah, maybe in North Kivu, I had it. Yeah, it was it was a very, very tense work atmosphere because of the conflict going on there, and we had there was a presence of different armed groups in town, and there were constant there was shooting going on, and staff was very tense, and we had to spend at least one day in the safe room, so it was difficult. But then one evening, I usually I went to talk to the night guards and before going to bed, just to check how they are doing, and because it's also a bit of a monotonous job, and also not a nice job because it's night. So I had a conversation with them, and one of the guards who was working on a daily basis with us from time to time, he said, like, Janna, can I have a talk with you? And I said, yes. And I was a bit suspicious because I thought, oh, he's going to ask me about a contract and about how his wage is not enough, which is all understandable. But I didn't feel like talking about that at that time. And the only thing he really wanted to ask me about is how are the seasons in Europe? Explain me how it worked the seasons. So it was such a beautiful moment in the midst of all those like difficult issues going on, and also this was one example, and also when people invite you to their home and under such different circumstances, and just show you pictures from their families, and you just notice that there is a human side to all of it, and so many dedicated and yes, very, very social, very good people out there. That is always very important. Those little moments.
My last question is the question I ask everyone who comes on Terms of Reference here. What advice would you give to someone who's either finishing up their degree right now, or maybe thinking about a career change to come into development or humanitarian aid? Is there a critical piece of advice that you'd give to them so that they may find success a little faster?
Yeah, in that regard, it also depends on how you define success, because I think you can focus on having a career with one organization, or you can focus on working in a field that you like, or maybe in different fields. So that depends a bit on your personal attitude towards your professional life. But for example, when I talk to the interns we have here in the office, and with them it's always a mutual learning experience, because we have had great people with us, and they are usually in the beginning of their 20s and have just finished their studies or about to finish them, and and are a bit worried, like where to go and what to do to get there. And so I always think it's very important to do internships, to experiment, to do constant learning, and to keep learning, and make sure that you use the possibilities you have to gain insight into different worlds. That means job worlds, but also people's worlds. So if you have the chance to do so by traveling, by doing internships, I know that's not possible forever, and I know conditions are very difficult because most of internships are unfortunately unpaid. But by those experiences, you can build up a very, very important network, and you can learn so much that then helps you also to find out what you really want and what you are good in. Because we all have different things we are good in, and we should specialize on those and build on them. And then another issue is maybe, keep learning also in regard to languages. I think that's very important if you want to work in the development world, and practice them as much as you can. And also keep learning in regard to, if you don't have the chance to continue your studies, try to do courses. There are many online courses. There are many summer schools one might attend. And keep flexible and motivated. And also, try to look for good examples out there. And with that, maybe your network that you can build on can help you. And don't bother asking people, and don't bother say I don't understand or I don't know, because we all should keep learning, and we can't know everything. So I think that's very important. And another issue is that once you get a foot in the door of the development world or of the humanitarian world, make sure that you keep learning and manage your tools well, and also flag once you maybe are exhausted. I think that's sometimes an issue that's not really dealt with enough with humanitarian or development agencies. That depending on the context where you are, but it's very important that you also care for your own health in the regard of in the sense of well-being, and balancing also work with your social life, because burnout, unfortunately, especially work for humanitarian work is an issue, and also the organizations should make sure that their people are well kept for, and maybe also in regard to the salaries, that's another point, but don't sell yourself too cheaply. Okay.
Janna, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
I really appreciated talking to you. Thanks for the great questions, Stephen.
You've been listening to Terms of Reference, a weekly podcast from aidpreneur.com. Find us on iTunes or at www.aidpreneur.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.